Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are obviously going to be reacting to the matches from this previous weekend, as well as just a little bit of news, a little bit of drama that happened today as I'm recording this on Tuesday. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this one, and we'll just get right into it. Before we get started, the videos might start to become a little bit delayed. I think they might be coming out later on Monday for reactions, and then maybe Wednesdays for predictions. I just graduated college, as I told you guys, you all know, a few weeks ago, and I started my full-time job after college this week on Monday. So obviously I'm pretty busy with that, getting up pretty darn early in the morning, a lot earlier than I'm used to, especially through college, and heading to that. And just working on that. And I get out about like 4 to 4:30ish Central Time. Kind of got a long drive home. So I'm pretty exhausted by the end of the day, but I'm definitely going to still keep on the grind. So the videos just might be out later as just a caution to you guys. They might be like 7, 8 o'clock uploads at night, just due to the fact that obviously I'm pretty busy. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know so you guys aren't wondering like why the heck aren't the videos being uploaded earlier and stuff. And that's the case. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we touch on the matches, I think this episode is just going to be a drama update or opinions, and then the matches, and then I'll offer one weird take or two maybe. But the drama that happened today, I'm sure you all know about it. This is not news to you. Formal and Crim drama, which really hasn't been much of a thing since like the beginning of last year, and even then, Formal was probably kind of more in the background. It was more of like a Crim Scump rivalry when the team first split up, obviously, because Formal had been off the team for about a year on LG and all that. So it was more of a Crim and Scump kind of rivalry, and Formal just kind of on the side, also kind of obviously on Scump's side since he's on his team. But now it finally really came to like a head, and they finally like publicly at least kind of like went at each other. It came from the video. I was about to say Huntsman. Chicago OpTic uploaded a video. It was like a beer pong type game where they like threw the cup. If they made it, then the other team had to like give an answer to like kind of a spicy question that was under there. And then Formal picked up a cup, and I believe the question was like, who do you wish you dropped but never did? Kind of like a lighthearted, funny question. And he seemed like he went at it serious. I mean, it's Formal, so he could have been full out trolling. You don't really know. But he just like, with like no hesitation, just said, I'm dropping Crim during like BO3. And it was like, what the heck? It's kind of weird, but I mean, he's probably trolling. It's kind of funny. And then Decerto Call of Duty posted it. Crim replied and said, plot twist, I get dropped. During the year, I join Envy in place of JCap. Crimsix still wins champs. Hold that, Jack Black, he called Formal. Kind of taking a jab at Formal. Also kind of taking a jab at JCap. JCap replied, like, why am I catching strays for this? And then JCap kind of fired back a little bit and said, fine, switch me in that winners round 1 with you in BO3, and OpTic wins maps 3 and 4, and Envy's down in losers, because JCap actually played insane in that winners round 1 versus OpTic in Black Ops 3. But then Crim didn't reply to that at all. But then Formal replied to what Crim said and said, that plot would be sweet. Except the way it actually went is you went in broken with camo, game in your hands, and failed. So he's talking about, I believe, in that series versus Envy. Might have been versus Cloud9. I can't remember which series he's talking about. He's talking about BO3 with camo, though, and how Crim maybe made a bad play that kind of cost them a chance at champs. And then Crim, they kind of were keeping it as in-game stuff a little bit here. I mean, there was a little Jack Black personal jab, and Formals was pretty much all like in-game jab, and then Crim went full out personal, and he says, sounds like how you failed to split the MVP payment with 3 teammates. No, I'd say brothers that you just won a world championship with. Even though we all agreed on doing this if we won it. Imagine scumming your brothers out of 6 to 7K because of pure selfishness and ego. And then Crim went on to say, I don't even give a flying fuck about the money. It's the thought of looking you in the face and realizing that this human being in front of me actually fucking did that you're capable of that. And then Formal went on to say, LMAO, that's your response. You should just be happy you got a free ring for literally doing meh the whole tournament. And then he was going at Crim saying he got carried to that IW ring, which, I mean, I don't think Crim got carried to it, but Formal was definitely the best player on the team. He was the best player in the event. One of the best events in COD history was IW champs Formal. So Formal definitely was the hard carry, but Crim wasn't like he was getting dragged along. He also played well. But then Crim kind of sarcastically said, "Thanks, Formal. I appreciate the free ring." Then he said, "I also appreciate the free one from last year as well. Didn't think it could have happened unless you got me dropped." I think he meant to say, "Don't think it could happen unless you got me dropped," basically saying like, "Thanks for dropping me. I got better because I left you." And then Formal said, "You hold that online one dear to your heart, huh? Acting like you didn't get sunned by Sam at the previous one, and even worse by Pat the one before that." Talking about like Sam Octane dominated him at BO4 champs, and then the year before in World War II, obviously Pat knocked out OpTic with that 3-0, kind of dominated them. And then the last funny part about it was Pat like subtweeted them both and said, "It's kind of funny because I sunned them both in 15 and 16, meaning AW and BO3. He knocked them out of AW and BO3, obviously. But overall, yeah, just like crazy drama. Like, just like absurd to think about the fact that like these guys were like teammates and they were teammates and like, I mean, went through so much together. They were a dynasty roster. They've been together for so long, and now they just hate each other this much. It's kind of like almost sad to see in a way. I mean, obviously things like this are going to happen. We have big egos in sports. It happens all the time. It can also happen in esports, obviously. I mean, these are two of the greatest players that have ever lived. And they obviously have big egos because they believe they're the best, which honestly is something you probably have to have in the world of competitive sports, competitive esports. You kind of got to have a belief that you're the best or one of the best, and they obviously both do for good reason because they're both some of the best ever. And I think egos just clashing, kind of sad to see, but also fun at the same time because it adds some storyline, some drama. I mean, Dallas and OpTic both have a chance to win champs at the end of the year. Obviously, we're picking teams like Faze or Toronto over them as a favorite. Even New York is still over those two teams. But nobody would be shocked if a team with Crimsix finds themselves in the top 4 or with a chance to win it all. And I think nobody would also be shocked if a team with Scump and Formal, Envoy, Dashy, if they find themselves in the top 4 or competing for champs. I mean, they're definitely not the favorites, but they're also not like impossible. They're up on the list pretty high of teams that have a potential to win champs. So it's kind of creating those crazy storylines. I really hope they meet at the next LAN, that tournament. Honestly, I'm hoping that they somehow find a way to avoid each other and they just meet up in the finals, because that series would be crazy hype. It'd also probably be amazing for COD. The viewership for a Crim versus Scump and Formal final, especially with the drama around it, would be crazy. First LAN tournament. I think the first LAN tournament is already going to bring back a lot of viewers and up the viewers, but if we could get like a Faze versus OpTic final or a Crim versus Scump and Formal final, it could be nuts. But that's enough rambling about the drama. Sad in a way, like I said, because obviously former teammates, it kind of sucks to see them hate each other so much, but also good for COD probably in a way, because obviously it's going to bring a ton of attention to it. But that's it for that. I think we'll just go over the matches, and then I have like one thing I want to talk about at the end of the video, kind of a hot or not section, so stay tuned for that. If you stay tuned for that, comment a random word down below. I don't know. We'll just say comment... I'm looking at my Gatorade water bottle. Mention Gatorade somewhere in your comment if you get to the point at the end of the video when you're watching the hot or not section. That way I know you're a real one and got to the end. But we'll get into the matches right away. Just kind of briefly going to touch on them. I was able to see pretty much everything. I had a busy weekend getting ready for work and all that. But I pretty much was able to see everything. Obviously, you guys saw me tweeting about the Surge and Rage tweeting about the Bucks. My God, the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not talking about the Buccaneers or anything. If you're a basketball fan, Milwaukee Bucks. I'm from Wisconsin. They're like my favorite sports team ever. And they just depressed me. I thought they had a chance to beat the Nets, and they're just getting dominated. So hopefully they turn around and somehow win, but it's looking like they're going to get swept. So if you see me rage tweeting about the Bucks, that's why, because they have me in a depression. Because I just love them so much, and they finally are good for once in my life over the last few years, and they can't get over the hump. But on to COD. First match of the weekend was Surge versus Faze. I mean, this went exactly as you'd expect, pretty much 3-0 in favor of Faze. I mean, looking at their overall series statistics, you got Abezy and Cellium with duo 1.4s and Simp and RCs with duo 1.1s. I mean, exactly what you'd expect. Gunless had a 1 on the other side, and everybody else was just, I mean, Pristini 0.79, Octane 0.82, Classic 0.57. When they came on the first map, though, they played a Checkmate Hardpoint. It was 250 to 199, and Seattle was actually relatively competitive. They were getting outslayed pretty much, but Octane had a 1.24. Classic really struggled once again, but Gunless and Pristini were all right, and they actually didn't look that bad in the map, and I was like, wait a minute. I mean, obviously, Atlanta, they beat Seattle in hardpoint, like shocker. I mean, we'd expect that to happen, but like Seattle fought decently. I mean, they scored 200 points. They were right there. They were in it for a lot of the map, and I was like, okay. Got to like the plane hill, and they were pretty much tied, and then FaZe just kind of like ran it up on P1 on them on like the third rotation, I believe it was, and ended up winning the map obviously by 50 points. But Seattle had a chance to win it at the end there, so I was kind of like, okay, Seattle, like you're looking pretty good. Like this is a team that maybe has a little bit more potential than we thought. Like not horrible, which you'd expect them to be. Then they go into the search on raid. They lose 6-5. I mean, FaZe is a great raid search team. Gunless was 14-8. He was hard carry, but once again, Classic 1-9. Then they go to control. They get beat 0-3. Classic had a little better map. He had the best KD in the team, but he really, really struggled in the search and the hard point. If he would have done anything in the search besides go 1-9, he wasn't even putting in damage either. He only had 450 damage. If he would have done anything in the search, they could have won that. And honestly, if he would have played better in the hard point, they potentially could have won that. And they get dominated control. I mean, FaZe, regardless if the maps are close or not, they 3-0, so you like to see it from them. Seattle, at the same time they showed potential, they also just kind of like showed why they are like the 12th team right now, simply because they just choke. They just can't seem to win a map when they need to. Classic seems to fit with the team better on the map. The team seemed more comfortable, but he's got to get his gunny up, because like we say, KDs usually aren't the most important thing to look at, but when you're dropping 0.5s in respawns and going 1-9 in search, KD starts to mean a little bit of something. Then the next match on Thursday was Empire versus Gorillas. This was a 3-0 for the side of Empire. Overall, a very impressive series for me, because I did pick the Empire to win at 3-2. And the reason I did that is, like I always say, LAG is one of those teams that they're just annoying. They're pesky. You're usually not going to be able to dominate them, but I wouldn't say Dallas Empire dominated them by any stretch, but they handled them enough. Like they showed that they were the much better team. And Shotzzy had a great series. He had a 1.7. Crim had a good bounce back series. I mean, he's been struggling a lot this year, but he had a 1.18. Looking solid. Illy with the 1.1. Vivid, a little bit of a down series, but he's probably going to be the entry guy. His numbers are going to be a little bit down, but he's going to be having a big impact on the map. On the side of LAG, Assault and Apathy played well. Chino and Silly really struggled, though, and Silly was playing so well to start the year, so it's interesting to see him struggle. Although he did go through the role switch, switching to a submachine gun instead of the AR that he was using for pretty much the whole first half of the year. Dallas won the first hardpoint by about 80. Shotzzy dominated on the map. Then they won the Miami Search 6-3, with Shotzzy going off once again, 12-4. And then the Garrison controlled. They won 3-1. Illy had a 1.6 on this map, as well as having a 0.79 in the first respawn, 19-24, though it's not horrible. And he went 6-5 in the search, but there wasn't a lot of kills there because Shotzzy was dominating. I would say overall I was impressed with Dallas Empire because I know they're a better team than LAG, but the way we're looking at them and the way we're looking at LAG, we kind of see LAG as a pesky team, like I said, but Dallas is able to handle them 3-0. So overall impressed with Dallas, and LAG kind of drops down to like a team that I just don't trust at the bottom. All right, and then that first match on Friday, LA Thieves versus Paris Legion. Obviously a pretty interesting one because the team that you'd expect to win in LA Thieves didn't do so. Paris wins at 3-1. Pretty much everybody on the side of Thieves was struggling. Venom played all right, and Kenny played all right. Draza and TJ kind of had down series a little bit. But on the side of Paris, Aqua had a good bounce back. He was more to the form we saw him earlier in the year. He went 79-64 overall. Zap and Scraps are both around ones, and Temple's at a 0.97. Overall, a really impressive series from Paris. Obviously, they come out, lose the hard point, and it was like, okay, here we go, another 3-0, Thieves over Paris, or 3-1 or something. And then Paris bounces back in what all of a sudden is like their staple mode, Search and Destroy. They win at 6-3 on Garrison, then they win a tight Garrison control, 3-2, and then they win the APOC hardpoint in the final map, 250-169. Kind of surprising to see because, like in the APOC hardpoint, they kind of outslayed them a little bit. In the Gary control, it was pretty much even, but they had a little bit of a slaying advantage. And even in the opening hardpoint, they did get outslayed, but it wasn't by a ton. And that isn't something I'd expect. I'd expect LA Thieves to be able to outslay them and win because of that. But on the side of Paris, we saw some life. They looked a lot better in hardpoint, dominating them on APOC, to be honest, and control. They were able to win against LA Thieves, who, I mean, maybe not the last couple weeks, but before that, they looked like the best control team in the game for a long time there. I mean, they were like unbeatable when they first switched to Kenny on the main and had Venom and TJ and Draws in the lineup. They looked almost unbeatable in control. Like the only team that could beat them was Faze. So honestly, this series was a turnaround for me for Paris. they seem to be like the typical Aqua team now, where Search, at least for the last couple weeks, obviously it's too early to say it's officially their staple, but for the last couple weeks, their Search and Destroy in the Stage 4 has looked awesome, and any team we've ever seen Aqua be successful in, I mean, the one that always comes to mind, I talk about them all the time, is Elevate in Black Ops 3. Excuse me, in Respawn, Facento wasn't really providing a ton in Respawn, Naga wasn't really providing a ton in Respawn. Fellow was all right in Respawn. He was a young player at the time, kind of hit or miss, really inconsistent, but could have some pop-off games. And Aqua was the hard carry. I mean, this dude was dropping 50 all the time on maps in Hardpoint, kind of the hard carry. But they were so good in Search. Nagafen was an awesome Search player. Fellow, Facento, they were both awesome Search players. And Aqua was an awesome Search player, and that was their staple. They were going to beat you map 2 every single time. So if they found a way to steal the Hardpoint, I mean, honestly, if they found a way to steal Hardpoint, or the uplink or CTF, they just stole one respawn and got you to a game 5. They were pretty much winning every game 5, and that's what this Paris team kind of seems like. If they can find a way to steal one respawn right now, they're so hot in Search, they could pretty much win any series. So kind of disappointing from LA Thieves. They go back to their old roster, and they're looking like they kind of like just regressed back to a worse team. And Paris showed some signs of life, so I'm happy for them and excited for them, to be honest. Then you're moving on to the next series, which ended out Friday, which was Subliners versus Mutineers. Yeah, and this one, a little bit of an interesting one. Clay struggled a little bit. Asim struggled, but there might be a whole thing with, he was like, I guess his visa might have expired, I thought I heard, so he was stuck in Toronto, I believe it was. He couldn't get back in the United States, so he might have had bad internet. I thought they were playing like the Colorado servers or Denver, well, I guess Denver, Colorado. But they were playing on, I believe it was Denver servers, and he was pinging really high to it, but he still didn't play. I mean, if he was pinging high, it didn't really show, because he went 99 101 overall in the series. Pretty good for if you're pinging really high to drop a .98. But New York wins this one 3-2. Obviously, the close APOC hardpoint goes the way of Florida, and then the Search and Destroy goes the way of Subliners. Then Florida takes a 2-1 lead, and Subliners wins a hardpoint, and then an Express Search map 5. Express Search really wasn't that close. It was 6-2, and Asim kind of took over 11-4. This one, to me, I mean, we'll take the Asim connection issues if he had them out of the picture, because, I mean, obviously, like, we don't know exactly what went on with that, so we don't want to speculate on it too much. But look at this. Clay put up a ridiculous amount of damage. He had 20k damage in the series. So he was just dealing the damage, just probably getting a lot of EKs and not actually finishing his kills, which is why his KD doesn't look as high, which is, once again, why KD doesn't always matter, because the dude put in almost 21,000 damage. But, I mean, he was probably just tagging a lot of people, and other people were finishing the kills, so his KD doesn't look as crazy as it should for 21k damage. But this series was a gut check, because obviously Asim going through a stressful time in his life. Obviously, he's like, well, why can't I get back in the States? Probably stressed out about it. I'm stressed about his connection, but he comes out, plays well through obviously the kind of like mental hoop to jump through, I guess, or mental hurdle, if you want to say that. He plays well. New York wins. To me, it proves New York's still a top team and can overcome some challenges. Florida, to me, it proved and showed that their improvement isn't a fluke. If they're able to play a team as good as New York this tight, that to me shows that the improvements we've seen out of them are not a fluke, and they actually are kind of here to be a more consistent, good team. Then moving into Saturday, we had Toronto versus London. Toronto wins this 3-0, kind of like you'd expect. Bance had a crazy series. What a story out of him. He not only had that great Stage 2 major, but he's continued it. Since then, he's been good in like every series. He hasn't even dropped off at all. So what a story from him. Like I said, I'm a Bance stan. I'll never discredit him again. And I mean, guys dropping a 1.46. I mean, it is against London. They're not the best team, but you're dropping a 1.46 in the Pro League. That's a great series. So Bance played him. Excuse me. Bance played amazing. Insight and Cammy both played awesome. Clemix didn't have the greatest series statistics-wise, but, I mean, he's doing the dirty work, so, I mean, you can't complain about it too much. On the side of London, everybody's negative. Shawnee had his, like, patent trademark .98 that he always seems to have, but they get 3-0'd. I mean, the first hard point got beat by over 100. The search was close, goes round 11. Bance and Cammy with the dual 14 bombs, though, to really carry. And then on the Garrison control, Toronto wins it 3-1. Takeaways from this one, I mean, you know what I'm all going to say. I don't want to spend too much time on this match. I mean, Toronto, arguably best team in the game, second best team in the game. London, one of the worst teams. Toronto wins it 3-0. I mean, Toronto, what we'd expect. London, what we'd expect. Not much to say. Then going into that next match, it was OpTic versus Paris. Paris obviously regresses a little bit here compared to their early week performance, but I will say they still showed signs that their early win wasn't a fluke and that they're a good team. I mean, Scump had maybe his best series of the entire year. He went 87 and 63 overall, had a 1.38, really dominated and showed that, Scump, I mean, he's not washed. I mean, I think any person with a sensible brain knew that Scump is still a good player, but people were calling him out like they always seem to do. And Dashy had a really good series as well. On the side of Paris, only person with a 1 or above was Aqua with exactly a 1. But like I said, KD's not the whole story. You look at the box scores, and I remember that map 1. Paris could have very easily won that. They lost the Garrison hardpoint by 10 off a really good break from OpTic on P2, I believe it was. It was a good break. I think Formal popped like a 3-piece. Yeah, Formal was like Ali on the heady. He's looking top green on that little platform, and he popped a 2-piece, and then I think got a third that was sliding off onto like the green satellite thing. So Formal pops a big 3-piece, they win the game. But once again, Paris could have easily won the map 1. Then they go to the standoff search. OpTic kind of handles that one pretty easily. Paris really didn't have a chance in that one, which is disappointing because, like I said, their staple seemed to be search and destroy. But I mean, on a relatively new map like standoff, it's kind of more of a toss-up. And Zap and Scraps just have really bad games. OpTic wins it, and they're a good search team. So I mean, that could be kind of expected. Then the rate control goes to the way of Paris. I mean, Scump fried, but nobody else brought anything along. Scump was 31-20, but everybody else 11-22 for Formal, 17-25 for Envoy. They just overall struggled. And on the side of Paris, Temp fried. He got streaks, and then he had a really weird streak usage in that round 4, but they won it, so hey, I guess it doesn't matter. But they win that, and then they get dominated in the final Moscow hardpoint by 100 points. Like I said, I mean, they kind of got blown out in the search, but new map will give them the benefit of the doubt. OpTic's a good search team, and they get blown out in the second hardpoint, but they win a control and honestly could have won the first hardpoint. So to me, for OpTic, I mean, obviously they win 2 hardpoints, which they have struggled on previously in the year, so it's good to see them win a hardpoint, especially one where they had to clutch up at the end because they've struggled with that a little bit. So for OpTic, I think both teams positive takeaways. OpTic positive, you win a series, obviously that's good, and you look good in the game one that you've looked so horrible in just a couple weeks ago, so good for them. Paris, on the other hand, you won a control, obviously, which is a good respawn win against OpTic, and then you almost should have won a Garrison hardpoint, so almost another respawn win, and then you lose search, and you know you'll be fine, you'll be good in that, and then you lose another hardpoint. So honestly, overall, you could have won 2 respawns, and you know you're a good search team, so pretty positive for Paris. Then the Minnesota versus Seattle match. I mean, I don't really want to get into this one too much. Minnesota, good job clutching up. Obviously, they lose the map 1 hardpoint. Kind of blow them out in a raid search, and then take a close control that once again Surge should have won, and then the final hardpoint, Surge probably should have won it again, but Minnesota clutches up and takes it. Just like for Minnesota, I want to say obviously good job to clutch up, close maps, way to clutch up. For Surge, what more can you say? They just somehow find a way to lose everything. I mean, I just don't even want to talk about that match anymore. I was so frustrated after that because obviously, I'm kind of cheering for Surge a little bit because I don't want to see them be so bad, but I mean, when they're just choking every map, it's hard to defend them at all. But the pieces are there, like they're so close. In order to choke a map, you have to be in a position to win it. So the fact that they're getting in a position to win it and just blowing it, like I don't want to criticize them that much either because for the players, I know if I was a player on the team, I'd be losing my mind right now. Like Gunless, so talented, Octane, so talented. I think Classic is one of the most underrated players in Call of Duty history. And obviously Pristini, world champion, we know he's so talented. Like they know what they're doing wrong. For some reason, they just can't fix it. So I don't want to harp on them too much because it's just got to be so frustrating to be in their shoes. But like, they're all such good players. Like it's just crazy that they just can't put it together. I don't know. Just tough for them. Then that first match of Sunday was Florida versus LAG. Once again, another match that kind of goes how we'd expect. Big Wake, Fries, Neptune, and Skies both around 1.2s, and Havoc around a 0.9. On the side of LAG, basically everybody negative but Assault. Close first hardpoint on Moscow, but Florida takes it. Then Florida takes 2-0 lead. They get beat 3-0 on the control. And then on the hardpoints, Florida comes out and wins it again. Same thing. LAG shows exactly who we thought they are. They can hang in. They'll keep the hardpoints close. Maybe steal a controller or search. They steal a control in this case and lose it. And for the side of Florida, once again, impressive. Good to see them get another win. Because they have to consistently beat these teams like LAG if they're truly going to be a top team. They can't do what they normally do and randomly lose to teams like LAG early in the year. So good for them. Show that they're dominating. Also, I really am liking the way Havoc's playing recently. I wanted him dropped initially for a guy like John. I still think they'd probably be better if they had a John. But Havoc is really, he's holding his own in search. He's playing well in that game mode. Like we're typically used to him doing. Obviously in this series he didn't have a great search, but he's generally a good search player. I feel like he's helping to call out a lot of strategies for them. And then overall in the series, he drops a 0.9, kind of doing the dirty work. Just overall, like, happy with the way Havoc's been playing. And then we had Thieves versus Atlanta Faze. I mean, not much to say here. Faze comes out and just puts them in the dirt. Wins the hardpoint by about 70, 6-0s them on search, 3-1s them on control. I mean, everybody on the side of LA Thieves so far negative. Everybody on the side of Atlanta Faze so far positive. I mean, there's just not much to say here besides the fact that Atlanta Faze best team in the game. Thieves, they're regressing, and it's kind of scary because now it's almost at the point where they can't make any more roster changes. They've done so many. The New York Dallas to end the weekend. This was a really awesome series to watch. Obviously, New York wins the hardpoint like we'd expect. 250 to 219 on Garrison. Then they get taken down on the raid search, so it gets interesting. Then all of a sudden, Dallas takes the control off them, and it was like, wait a minute, Dallas has really struggled in control recently, and all of a sudden they just beat New York, who's a good control team. Vivid really dominated that map. Crim had a great map, and that control. In the first hardpoint, I mean, Hydra and Mac were the fry men. Mac had a 40 bomb, and then they're down 2-1. They go to checkmate. Mac drops another 40 bomb for a 1.6, and they just kind of, I mean, the fact that they actually only won this game 250 to 210 is kind of nuts when you look at the stats. I mean, Asim had 37, Mac 40, Clay 30, Hydra 27, and they're all positive in the KD department. On the side of Empire, everybody's negative, and they had 30, 23, 22, 29. I mean, so even if I'm not going to add it all up exactly, but I mean 30, 20, 20, 20, I mean, that's about 90 kills, and they had 9. I mean, they had about 105 kills. On the side of New York, you had, what, 77, 107, I think 134 with the quick math. So, I mean, you outslayed them by about 30 kills, and, I mean, everybody's negative, and you barely win. I mean, they win by 40, but closer than it should be, probably. And then New York, they were down like 4-2, and Clay made a big play mid-map on that standoff search, and they end up coming back and winning it, so New York wins it. Just an overall, like, Empire, I'm going to say overall impressed from the series for them because they get outslayed in the hardpoint, keep it close. They managed to win a control off of New York, and they honestly were in position to win that map 5 and just couldn't close it out. So, I mean, just a couple weeks ago, they'd be getting 3-0'd by New York in the fellow iteration of the team. So I guess I'll say it's an improvement of where they've been in New York. Once again, I mean, I know it takes a long time for them to beat them. They should probably blow out a team like Dallas a little bit better when 3-1, but Dallas is a scrappy team, and they have last year's MVP. They have Crim. They're always going to be in it. So for New York, I want to say overall, like, yeah, they probably should win by more, but you can't knock them for winning. So, I mean, overall, good for New York. But that's it for the review of the matches. I kind of forgot to make up my power rankings. I'm going to pull up the standings and just kind of make it on the fly. So if I screw up here, that's my bad, but we'll just go 12-1. I think right now you've got to put Surge at 12. I want to put them higher because I still think that their ceiling is higher than LAG, but they just can't win a map and they can't clutch up, so you got to put them at 12. 11, I'm going with LAG. I think LAG, once again, is probably going to be a consistently better team than the likes of like London. But I think London, once again, has guys like Afro and Alex who have a higher skill ceiling and can randomly pop off more than guys on LAG can. So I'm putting LAG at 11. I'm going to throw London at 10. And that's because London, once again, has that higher skill ceiling than a team like LAG, but not than Paris in my opinion. So I'm throwing Paris at 9. And the reason I'm throwing Paris at 9 is because, once again, I think they're a team that could win almost every search and destroy they play now. They finally found their formula. So they're a team that kind of feels like Steel Respawn. They could win a series much more than all the other teams below them. So they're at 9. At 8, I'm going with Minnesota. They win this week, obviously, but they're just a team that you can't trust. They're so inconsistent. I don't know if the roster change really helped them at that much. It seems like kind of a lateral move, the Major Maniac for accuracy. So they're at 8 for me. At 7, I'm going LA Thieves. They look horrible this week. They go 0-2. They lose to Paris, which is a bad loss. They lose to Faze, which we'd expect, but they get, not only did they lose to Faze, if they would have kept it close first Faze, I would have been like, okay, a little better, but they got destroyed by Faze. So we're dropping them down to the 7th spot. In the 6th spot, I feel like this is a pretty easy one. I'm going to put Empire there. They look overall pretty good this week. They get a win over LAG. And then they have a really close match versus New York. If they win that, they're probably climbing up the rankings, but I'm having them at 6 for now. At 5, I think I've got to go with OpTic. I don't see how OpTic could... Wait. What am I doing here? Oh, no. At 5, I'm going with Florida, actually. I kind of forgot that Florida was down there since I'm looking at the standings and they're so low down there. I'm going with Florida at 5. I knew I said I'd screw this up because I forgot to like put up my list. But Florida's at 5. I'm still going to keep OpTic ahead of them because overall OpTic's been better this year. Florida, they've been consistent over the last few weeks, but I want to see them do it for one more week and going into the major before I'm willing to put them ahead of OpTic, unless OpTic really just like flops in the final week of the regular season of Stage 4. If OpTic really flops and Mutineers looks awesome again, we'll throw Mutineers ahead of them. But for now, for the overall body of work for the year, I'm going to go with OpTic ahead of them at 4. And then at 3, I'm gonna put Toronto there still. I could see a world where you could have them jump New York. It's just tough because Toronto only played the one match this week versus London. They didn't have another match, so it's a little bit tough to rank them and say like, oh, we saw them play well twice. They beat London, but London's obviously struggling a lot. And New York also went 2-0 this week, so it's hard to drop them. So that's why I'm going New York at 2, and obviously Faze is 1. But that's the power rankings. That's it for this. I had like 2 random little hot takes. Remember what I said earlier in the video? Commented if you got here. Just a reminder for the real ones that got here. I had 2 little hot takes. One's kind of a joke, and then one's a little bit more serious. The first one, we'll just do the joke one. I just wish Doug would play for Seattle. Obviously, like, it would be kind of a slap in the face to the players that have worked very hard, and a slap in the face to whoever would get. Obviously it'd be pristine or classic bench because Doug would use a sub, so he would be in for one of the sub players on their team, which is classic and pristine. But it would be kind of a slap in the face to put Doug in, and also a slap in the face to the competitive integrity of the league. Just throw a random player that technically maybe hasn't earned his spot in the league to just like throw him and allow him to be in there. It would be kind of disrespectful, but it would be fun to watch Doug get in. He'd bring the viewership way up. The Surge matches don't get a lot of viewers unless they're playing OpTic, because they're Surge and nobody seems to really want to watch them since they've been so bad. But throwing Doug in there would make it at least entertaining. But obviously I understand the reasons why you don't do it. It's disrespectful to the players in your team, but it would be kind of fun to watch. Then the actual real take I have, something's got to change with the format. The easiest explanation for me, and it's obvious, is expand by 8 teams to make it 20. That's not going to happen. At the most, they're going to expand by 4 to make it 16 next year. And from what I'm hearing, they're not expanding. I don't know if I can take another year of only 12 teams, man. This is not enough people in the league. There are so many good players whose careers are going to be wasted because they just keep missing out on opportunities to be in the league because there's so few spots. There's veterans' careers that are being ended because there's so few spots in the league where they're kind of like, they're an okay player, but teams are kind of on the fringe and they can't make the playoffs, so they just bring in all the young guys and all the old guys get kicked out. I'm also all for new talent, and I think getting new talent in the league is good. I'm also for the fact that, like, having all new talent in the league and none of the players who have the big brands and made the league popular, yes, like, maybe a guy is slightly more talented than the old guy, but he has no followers and no brand, where, like, a guy like Hecz has a huge brand and he's just out of the league. And yes, there are players more skilled than him, but like a dude like Hecz, if there's 16, 20 teams, like he could be on one of those teams, and that team is going to pull off upsets. They're probably not going to be the best team because, Hecz is definitely out of his prime, but the dude has a huge brand. He brings a ton to the league. People will tune into matches simply because Hecz is playing, especially a lot of older fans like me. I will tune into every match that Hecz plays, no matter how bad their team is, because I love Hecz. He's an awesome player, one of the most important people in the story and the history of COD, because OpTic, biggest fan base, obviously everybody loves them, but OpTic, who knows how many freaking champs wins they'd have if Hecz didn't knock them out of AW and BO3 and World War II. Like, Hecz is like the anti-OpTic villain that the scene has always needed. So, like, I don't know, this format in the league, something's got to change, because the main, I know I just rambled about a lot of stuff, but the main reason why I believe it's got to change is because here we sit with a week of the regular season of Stage 4 left, the Stage 4 major, then 3 more weeks of Stage 5 regular season, and then the Stage 5 majors. We've got like a month and a half, 2 months of competition left in the regular season before we get the champs, and we pretty much know the champs field already. Faze is locked in at the top of 380. We know New York's in, we know Dallas is in, we know Toronto's in, we know OpTic's in. I think technically the one team where it starts that they could be out is Thieves, but we know they're in. They have 180, then Rocker has 160, Florida has 150, and then in 9th, it's LAG with 90. That would require them to like win an event to jump any of these teams, and it would require Florida, Minnesota, and LA Thieves to do like nothing for them to jump them. So like basically the top 8 are locked in, because I don't think LAG is making a crazy run. London maybe could have made a crazy run with their all roster, but they're at 70. They're 80 points behind the last playoff spot. Paris is also 80 points. We don't think they're making a crazy run. And Seattle's 100 points behind. Like, that's 10 regular season matches, or like a crazy placement at the major. Like, these teams are literally eliminated from playoffs already, and we still have to watch another week of the stage, the major, a couple weeks off, then the next 3 weeks, then the major, and then a couple weeks off. Like, I've got to sit through like 6, 7, 8 more weeks of Call of Duty, despite the fact that it literally doesn't matter because the top 8 teams for champs are locked in. So that's like my rant about that. Like, I don't know. I guess you could do that as a hot or not. Do you agree with that take or not? But I really don't see how you couldn't agree with the fact that the format needs to be changed if we have 2 months of the regular season left and we already know the playoff field. Like, that doesn't happen in other sports. Like in the NFL, usually you have a couple people, like even if the divisions are locked in, you have a couple people battling for the wild card, or at least battling for like seeding, and seeding doesn't matter as much in COD. So like they're battling for seeding or the wild card, or like the MLB. I mean, I'm a Brewers fan, and just a couple years back, the Brewers came down so close to the end of the wire that they had to play an extra game against the Cubs to decide who was the winner of the division. So something like that is crazy. Even in the NBA, I mean, like seeding obviously matters, and like they had play-ins, so it came down to it. Like in the play-in games, had super high ratings. Like they were crazy. Everybody seemed to love them as from a viewer standpoint. Obviously, the players, LeBron didn't like them, but viewer standpoint, they love that high pressure. So like we need play-in games or something where like we know these teams still have a chance. So it's not like why are they even playing? But that's my rant for that. I think that's going to do it for this video, though. We had the little drama section, reviewed the matches, then went over what the hell needs to change with the format. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but it's got to be something. Like, incentivize them with potential play-in games where 2 of the bottom 4 teams can make it into champs or something. But that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to comment Gatorade down below, like I said. Well, all right, sorry about that. I think my mic just glitched out, but I'm pretty sure you can still hear me. If there's a weird pause in there, I apologize for that. But yeah, it's like I said, I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this one. It was kind of a little refresher. I've been working a lot this week, starting the new job and everything. So like I said, I believe this is where my mic kind of paused out. Comment Gatorade, like I said, if you got to this point in the video. Work in your comment in some funny way or something. Obviously, you guys know I always appreciate reading the comments. I love you guys all that comment, that watch the videos, that interact with it. Obviously, like I've told you a million times, it's a great outlet for me, especially now with work. Kind of long days, a little bit stressful. It's nice to have a little way to unwind, so this is really nice. But yeah, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next one. Hopefully tomorrow I can get a predictions vid done for the next upcoming week of matches. But this has been Ryan with the CDL podcast, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.